And now for the NFC Championship game. This is a good one. This is a really good one. You know, 2 months ago, a lot of people were saying that they wanted to see this matchup at some point in the season in the playoffs, obviously. So, now the matchup seems a little less appealing now that the Vikings showed in the last half of the season, the last month of the season, they're not as good as they looked. And the Saints, in the last month of the season, showed that they're not quite as good as they initially looked. But when you look at what happened last week, you know, the Vikings destroying the Cowboys and the Saints blasting into the Cardinals, now suddenly maybe the teams are close to back to where they were earlier, you know, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And that makes this matchup very enticing indeed, but, you know, you have to ask yourselves, is this Dallas team, is the Minnesota team the team that gave up 4 touchdowns to Jay Cutler, or is it the team that completely dominated the Dallas offense? And then you look at the Saints, look what they did to the Cardinals. Is that team going to show up? But what about the team that lost 3 straight to end the season, the team that lost to Tampa Bay in New Orleans, you know, all that. It's a conundrum, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is going to be, but for the Vikings, we don't know if we're going to get Percy Harvin for one. Percy Harvin may not play. He hasn't been very good the last half of the season, though, quite frankly, so it's not like they're not used to not having Percy Harvin. But his ability to break off a big play in special teams was important to what they were able to do, and his ability to break off long runs after the catch. It was all something that the Vikings counted on, and when they didn't have it in the second half, it just was not quite the same. So, this weekend, they may not have that threat. It'll be all about Sidney Rice. Now, Sidney Rice is a great cornerback. He showed many times this year why he's one of the best young wideouts in the league, but Jabari Greer, one of the best cornerbacks in the league secretly. People, maybe you don't know about him. Maybe you haven't heard about him like you did Darrelle Revis or Charles Woodson, but Jabari Greer secretly had one of the best years of any cornerback. He can take on Sidney Rice and, you know, if not completely take him away, then do an awesome job on him. And that's going to be the big key here. If Jabari Greer takes away Sidney Rice, this game is probably over. And I think he can do that. I think he's going to take away Sidney Rice, for the most part. So, I think the game ultimately rests in the hands of one person, Adrian Peterson. If he's as good as as they say, and they do say he's very good, he will have a monster game tomorrow against a Saints defense that is not great against the run. Peterson needs to have a big game tomorrow for the Vikings to have a shot. And so far this year, a lot of times in key situations, he hasn't gotten the job done. He's had a nice year. It hasn't been the year that a lot of people thought a guy like Adrian Peterson was going to have. And now, it's actually important. Before, it didn't matter. Now, it matters. And that's the number one thing that concerns me about the Vikings. I don't know what we're getting out of Peterson. And as weird as that is to say, because he's one of the best running backs in the league, I don't know if he's going to be able to take a full advantage here, and he needs to, or the Vikings aren't going to have a real shot here. Combine that with the Brad Childress effect. Combine that with the Superdome crowd. Combine that with the, I don't know what we're getting out of the, out of Brett Favre on the road. I don't know what we're getting out of the Vikings on the road, quite frankly. So, I'm going to go with the Saints. I'm going to say Saints 30, Vikings 24. So, the Saints are -4. Take them against the spread. Take them to win. That's what I got. So, we'll have the Super Bowl of the Indianapolis versus New Orleans, I think. And I'll be making a video after the games tomorrow. We'll know. 24 hours, we will know. And I'm going to leave it at that. See you guys later. Everybody enjoy the games.